What did you learn way too late in life? Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy. Thanks. Story 1. Having people skills gets you farther than actual skills. That's the reason complete idiots usually become managers. They're better at playing the game. Story 2. Just because they're blood doesn't mean they're family. Became crystal clear after I moved away. Story 3. Everyone is just winging it and I'm in no way inferior to all of those who make it seem like they have all their shit together. They don't. Story 4. Some people just straight up lie to your face about really important things. Like I kind of theoretically knew liars existed and have always been good at spotting someone gilding the truth or manipulating me, but a straight up lie. Well, learned the hard way I can't seem to spot them. In person at least. And #by2ob. Also that my mother was right about dating and women and I should have listened to her much earlier instead of guys that had no idea about women. Story 6. They're not fucking around when they say how important your diet is. I thought I was immortal in my 20s, found out I'm not. Story 7. The rich spend money without losing their money. Story 8. Forgiving myself. For things that were my fault and things that weren't. As long as you hold onto that guilt, of whatever it is, and don't look at it, it just lingers in suspension. Never goes away. Once you forgive yourself for what you did or failed to do, that guilt starts to fade into the past. You start to get some breathing room and it feels like a weight off your back. Then you're able to look at it more objectively, as it isn't so ever-present hanging over you. Forgiving yourself allows that hindsight view that people call 20/20ths. That's when you can work through what happened, what you have to take responsibility for, what you can come to terms with not actually being your fault, what you need to do better, what you need to atone for. It's what allows you to emotionally move forward, and it's something we don't really teach people to do, move forward after things they've done or failed to do. I know I learned that way too late. I could have used that in my early 20s. But better late than never. Some people go their whole lives beating themselves up over guilt that wasn't even supposed to be theirs to carry. Story 10. Female attraction to men does not work the same way as male attraction to women. Story 11. Being an altruistic and thoughtful person is not valued anywhere near what I was led to believe. Story 12. The person thinking most about that thing you are overthinking is you and no one else actually gives a shit, so chill. The stain you got on your t-shirt really isn't that embarrassing, no one is even aware of it, other than you, so why are you panicking about something? No one would even care about if you told them straight up. Just remember that and don't sweat the small stuff. Story 14. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Story 15. Setting boundaries. Time is valuable, sex is best when feelings are involved, save all the money you can. Story 16. That my mother was wrong, and I'm nothing like my repulsive, creepy, abusive father. Story 17. Either you fix it or it's not getting fixed. Rare is the occasion where someone saves you. More than likely, you gotta do it yourself. Story 18. Sometimes, bitches be crazy. Story 19. Should have started to hustle in my late teens. Story 20. I always knew that things aren't fair, but I feel like it never sunk in until a few years ago that most people are just fine with that and won't do anything to change it. Story 21. Charisma is the only thing you really need in life. I have loads of skills and a 145 IQ with no social skills, and finding a job is nearly impossible. Stupid people who can speak to anyone well can get basically any job they want, no problem. Story 22. I found out I have ADHD in my 30s. My teens and 20s snapped into focus and understood while formal education was such a struggle despite a love of learning and excelling as a test taker. Story 23. How to manage my finances. Story 24. It's been said any number of ways with a lot of notable quotes, but don't forget to live your life while you're planning for the future. That future you're planning for will be behind you before you realize it. Story 25. That women don't give a shit about you, just what you can do for them. Story 26. Take what you need and leave the rest. Much harder in practice than said. Story 27. Facing fears and overcoming them makes you stronger. Never let anyone intimidate you, no matter how much control and power they think they have. Story 28. Self-acceptance. Story 29. Save any bit of spare cash if you have any, no matter how small. Learn to manage that shit. Be as tight as a mosquito's arse or as tight as 2 coats of paint. Even if right now you are think that you are all doing okay, still save what you can. As an aside, I totally appreciate that for some this advice is irrelevant and or triggering, as many people literally do not have spare pennies. Been there myself, so apologies in advance. Story 30. Trust no one, not even family. The people closest to you are the most dangerous because you'd never see it coming. Story 31. Adjusting your attitude and your frame to the world is incredibly valuable. I've gone years with barely enough dollar to pay rent and buy food, yet happy and worry-free. Nobody to please and nothing to lose. Only thing left was to focus on appreciating the blessings. Life goes by very fast. Make a decision to enjoy every day, every hour and minute regardless of your situation. Story 32. I dunno. I'm only 47. Maybe I haven't learned it yet. Remind 47 years. Story 33. The generic path they push on every child is complete BS. My guidance counselor sat there and told us all the same shit, even though most of us had no money or business going to college. I was both those things. I wish I knew earlier that I never listened to that bus-riding jackass. Story 34. Women and children can afford to be careless, but men can't. Story 35. Being a workaholic who never sleeps is a weird and kinda stupid flex. When it comes to self-care, we put so much emphasis on diet and exercise but tend to neglect our sleep hygiene. Don't sleep on sleep. Story 36. I'd rather have no friends than shit friends. Story 37. To never doubt yourself and throw in the towel. Story 38. That it is possible to be attracted to men and women. Story 39. In the final analysis, the only person who you have to make happy is you. Story 40. How important the client is, and if you have to ask a woman if she had an orgasm, she didn't. Story 41. You won't make friends when trying to make friends. Story 42. How to truly enjoy sex instead of being nervous and stupid about it. Story 43. Friends come and go. Story 44. How important networking is. I'm not an introvert, but I never liked engaging with people unnecessarily. Having contacts gets you places. Story 45. Honestly, that I act like a complete idiot to get attention. Story 46. Clit. Story 47. Some people are capable of change. Some people are not. It's better to assume the ones who need to won't and celebrate them if they actually do. But it's not your responsibility to change them. Story 48. Nobody's coming to save you. Story 49. Listen to your body. Take that sick day. Story 50. Most people are faking their work ethic and pretending they're working so much and hard when really we're all just getting by and trying to get away with being lazy. There are a few people who work as much as they claim. We call them workaholics and they're generally unpleasant to be around. Story 51. A lot of stuff is unnecessary trash, clothes, jewelry, cars, all this materialistic stuff I used to think was important. Story 52. The game is rigged. Sometimes it's just best not to play. Story 53. It's not a rumor, you actually do get old. Story 54. Don't do drugs. Story 55. Investing in stocks is generally a losing game. It is kind of a scam. Story 56. I live in a huge country. One time I went with my family to the far south. It was a 22 hours drive from our city, so we stooped for the night in a small town in the middle of the desert. That town was so small there was literally nothing for us to do. No restaurants, nothing. We almost die of boredom. Such was the case when we drove back home. We did those tutus in a single go just to avoid that town law. Story 58. Don't share a bank account with your parents. Story 59. Be more selfish. Always being the one to compromise just gets you taken advantage of and wasting your time. Story 60. Invest early. Compound interest starts slow but ramps up quickly. Story 61. Stop watering dead friendships. Story 62. To not ever accept someone as an authority, especially an authority of your feelings. Story 63. I use shampoo to lubricate around my butthole before I take a shit. It slides out easily and perfectly every time with no straining. When I was a teen I had painful, rock-hard shits and I used to dread the experience. I can't believe I never knew about this trick earlier in life. Story 64. No one is above betraying you and loyalty isn't worth spit. Use anyone you can and burn the bridge afterwards. Reward those who deserve it and betray those who earned it. Story 65. You should try and meet a partner in your early 20s, at least before you reach 30. After that it becomes much more difficult to meet someone you can vibe with. Story 66. School grades mean very little in life. I know university grads that 20 years later have nothing and high school dropouts making very good livings. Story 67. Street smart and GT, book smart. Story 68. Seduction and how to get your shit together. Story 69. That everything I wanted wasn't going to happen. and if it did, it was taken away. Story 70. Reading people so you can adjust yourself to how they act and like you better. Story 71. Why my dad lives the way he does. Truly what he sacrifices for the family. Salute to all dads out there. Story 72. The value of, and how to manage, my money. I'm 3 am still struggling with some frivolous spending, and I would have been much farther along in my adult life if I had learned this infinitely valuable skill as a teenager. My impulse control when it comes to purchasing things that I really want, but in no way need has come a long way, but it still needs work. Having a relatively expensive hobby that has seemingly limitless items for purchase guitars, and therefore amplifiers, effects pedals, and countless other things definitely doesn't help, but I've learned to keep one instrument, which I put together myself with inexpensive, used parts and one dual amplifier. Having fairly poor CR, I've gotten much better, and am continuing to get better, though. I tried to go straight into denying myself any spending on wants, but found that the key to getting more successful, like is the case with many things, is to set a realistic budget relative to current spending habits, and then try to meet that budget. Then, little by little, reducing the set wants budget lower and lower slowly over time. My dad tried very hard to teach me money management when I started my first job, but, as hard-headed teenagers often do, I didn't take his advice. As cliché as it sounds, I wish I could go back and take that advice, as well as pretty much every piece of advice he gave me, very seriously. My teenage self would hate me for saying it, but he was right about pretty much everything, and his advices were rock solid. Story 74. Messy is goated. Story 75. It's pronounced mashed potatoes, not smashed potatoes. I was at least in the ballpark. Story 76. Everyone is untrustworthy unless they prove you wrong. Story 77. How to wipe my ass the right way. Story 78. You could be doing it wrong. Story 79. Nobody's here to help. Story 80. Not everyone wants to see your penis. I know this is strange to me too, but alas, it is true. Story 81. That it's okay to be selfish every now and then, and that I'm not responsible for other people's happiness. Story 82. Everybody has advice for you, but not everybody knows what the fuck they are talking about. You can't rely on yourself to be right about everything, but on occasions where you feel you've assessed something objectively and can be honest with yourself about not deceiving yourself, you may well be. Tell more people to fuck off. Story 83. How to stand up for myself when to tell someone to fuck off. I still kinda struggle with this, but I used to be a complete doormat as a kid and into my late teens. Was raised to be polite and kind, so much so that I thought taking shit from people was just part of that. Story 84. Retirement savings is so much easier if you start earlier with a small amount of money. Story 85. Don't put penis in crazy. Story 86. Learn when to pull out, applicable in more than one situation. Story 87. That I'm supposed to be happy. FFS. Story 88. Sexual compatibility is a must, also that my wife is literally turning into my mill. Story 89. I'm a baritone, not a tenor. Story 90. Life isn't fair no matter how many good things you sometimes will do. Story 91. Think for yourself instead of regurgitating what others tell you, especially if those people dehumanize whoever doesn't agree with them. Story 92. That I get to define success and that my idea of success will change throughout life. When I was young, success meant making lots of money or accumulating a lot of power. After I met my wife, success looked like being able to support her through her medical training while keeping my passions alive. Now that I have a kid, success looks like providing for my family and serving my community to the best of my ability. Some of the outcomes have stayed the same. For example, when I was young I wanted to run for office and did so successfully because I thought I had all the right ideas. Today, I want to serve in public office because, especially at a local level, I think it is an amazing way to give back to my community if the community believes I have something to offer. Story 94. That I am a man and no one, absolutely no one, is coming to help me on my struggles to success. Story 95. How to be a responsible adult. Still doubt it sometimes. Story 96. Just because they're nice to you doesn't mean that they are your friend. A friend that calls you only when they need something is not your friend. Always put yourself to be your top priority. Learn to say no and set up boundaries. Just because they're your immediate family doesn't mean they have your best interest in mind. Do forgive, never forget. Story 98. When you should give up, let go, or move on. Story 99. No one cares about your growth or peace of mind. Story 100. That men seems to look better as they age only because they can grow a beard to cover the whole bottom of their face and neck. Story 101. How to have and enforce boundaries. Still learning this. Story 102. That one day I would want to retire and that I should have started saving. Story 103. That all worthwhile validation comes from inside and not external sources. Story 104. There is nothing wrong with trade school, especially for skilled trades that are never going anywhere like welding. I did well enough in high school and got a high enough score on the SAT to get automatic acceptance into any state college in my state. Unfortunately, I did not have the maturity to go to a college that costs, at the time, over $10,000 year in tuition alone. Last I heard that same school is nearly $25,000 year in tuition alone. WTF. I could have paid $2,500 for a welding cert, gone to work for any pipeline, oil field service, oil exploration, or construction company of my choice, then gone back to school and get better grades and a better degree than I have now. Plus, I would have been able to pay for it outright, not take on nearly $50,000 in student loans because my family that was supposed to help me out was hit in the mouth by the 2008 housing market crash. Nope. I listened to my mom, who was convicted that a college degree straight out of high school was the only option. I got a worthless degree and $50,000 of debt. Now I'm going back to school for a useful degree, paying tuition while paying student loans. It's great. Story 106. Never turn down a chick when you're young. The ugliest 20-year-old at your school is going to be the hottest chick you see at the Target by the time you're 50. Better to have those memories than not. Nobody cares what you could accomplish. Some folks care about what you did accomplish. The people in charge of you, employers, etc., only care about what they can get you to do. Nobody gets into a position based on they'll grow into it, at least not in decades. Story 108. I fucked up too much during my college days and that I'm experiencing the after effects now. I've experienced too much pain that I gave up most things, and on the positive side, nothing can shake me up anymore, as long as it's not the death of a loved one. Story 109. That my degree was useless. Love spending 4 years and thousands of dollars on something that anyone could have done without. Story 110. That women are unholy monsters sent by the devil to ruin men's lives.